three functions of money are distinguished as 1. A store of value or purchasing power, the ability of an item to hold value over time. 2. A medium of exchange. Money serves as a medium of exchange, i.e., an asset that the sellers will accept as payment. A medium of exchange allows people to eliminate the use of barter. 3. A unit of accounting, a way of placing a specific price on economical goods and services. As a unit of accounting, the monetary unit is used to measure the value of goods and services relative to other goods and services. Money in its modern form arose from goldsmiths who retained gold and other precious metals in their safes, and in exchange they gave certificates to prove the deposits. People then started to exchange the certificates for goods and services. And the goldsmiths very quickly realized they could make a lot of money out of just looking after other people's valuable goods. The now no longer a goldsmith, but running a deposit facility, took in gold and other precious metals as deposit and issued deposit notes that the public used as money, backed by the gold in the deposit facility's safe. The goldsmiths soon realized that very few people actually redeemed the gold, and so he started to give out loans in the form of deposit notes, knowing that he only needed around 10% of actual gold in his safe, as that would cover, even on a busy day, the amount of people exchanging certificates for gold. The deposit facility would then require the loan repaid plus interest, and this was the birth of modern banking. Through the years, money has been backed by, given a store of value, by the silver standard and gold standard, meaning you could redeem the note for gold, just like it says on this US note here, if you so required. On the 21st of September 1931, the gold standard was abolished in the UK, and on the 13th of August 1971 in the United States. Since 1971, the majority of the planet now use fiat currency. Fiat currency is money backed by nothing and has no value. It only has value because it's decreed as such by the government, and more importantly, we all believe it has value. The only entities that have the legal authority to create money are the Treasury and the banks, and they create it out of nothing. Martin Wolf, the Financial Times chief economic commentator, said this: only 3% of money is physical and 97% is electronic, and this electronic money is completely controlled by the banks.
The way I try and explain the whole crux of the financial system is what I normally do when I'm doing a talk. I have a little bag of marbles and I have 10 marbles in there if I haven't lost one of them. And so what I do, I sort of get the marbles out, show everyone, right, 10 marbles, put them back in the bag. I say, right, is there anyone here that can get 11 marbles out of this bag? And they're all looking at me like I'm mad. I say, well, that's how the banking system works. It's absolutely crazy, because what they do, they create a certain amount of money, but then they want more back. But hang on, that interest that they want more back doesn't exist. It can never exist. So two things have to happen as a result. One thing, the supply of money, or marbles, whatever we're talking about, has to increase. And not only does it increase, it has to increase exponentially, more on top of more. So it's basically, the curve is going up and up and up and up. The other thing that happens is people are always, it's like musical chairs. You know, if we all stand up and dance and then we all sit down, but a chair is taken away, somebody is going to end up on the floor. Somebody can't find that money to pay back because that money does not exist. And this creates the poverty and crazy competition and not enough to go around. And this is the biggest problem with fractional reserve banking.
Money is essentially a claim on human labor and can also be defined as debt. A debt is created for you to pay back. using the most precious commodity on the planet, your human energy, to pay back the loan plus interest. So why don't the banks just print money and get rich that way? Well, because they need you. They need you to create a promissory note in the form of an agreement. A promissory note is a species of money, and when you complete and sign the agreement, the document now has value, just like a banknote. The banks create money out of nothing. A promissory note is a promise to pay and is created by you, the debtor, and a bill of exchange is an order to pay and is created by the creditor. And they both have value.
The promissory note, which is literally a piece of paper that says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of blah, blah, blah. And you sign it, date it, and now that becomes a species of money according to the Bill of Exchange Act. We think that money comes from somebody else, but it actually comes from us. Yeah. You know, when you get a loan, they present you with a loan agreement, yeah? What do you think that loan agreement is? What is it? It's a promissory note. Yeah. I promise to pay back 3 times the amount if it's a mortgage, yeah? You know? So that what they do with that promissory note, they monetize it. They put it into an account and cash it. And now they give you that money and say, now you have to pay it back to us. But you created that money. You know, it's your promissory note. You created that money.
Tax is probably the best way, the only way better than fractional reserve banking to starve a community is taxation. And it wouldn't be that case if the tax was actually spent on the people and on the land, but because it's not, it becomes a starving of the people. This again comes back to corruption. And tax would be fine. We'd be living in an amazing health service, incredible roads, all the rest of it, if all the money that went into the taxation pot was paid for what it was supposed to be for. My understanding is it isn't. The problem that we have is the implications for its non-use is that other than fraud, it's the only debt that can deprive you of your liberty. It's the only debt that they can put you in jail for is tax evasion or tax fraud, which is pretty serious really, because you can ignore as many credit cards or loans as you like and you can never be put in jail for any of that. But if you try and not pay your tax for a while, they'll really like to let you know about that. Funny thing is, I don't see many representatives of people like Amazon or big corporates that aren't paying their tax in the slammer. Maybe they should be.
Human beings are the only creatures on the planet that pay to live on it. The government does not own the product of your labor. If they did, you would be a slave. Since they do not own the product of your labor, then taxation can be defined as theft, or more accurately, extortion and blackmail. No man can own another, so no man can own the fruits of another man's labor. Most people will argue that it is a necessary evil and that it's legal because the government say that it is. How else would we pay for hospitals, police, roads, and so on? Well, reaching into your own pocket to help a good cause is noble. Reaching into someone else's pocket under the threat of force is despicable. Here is a quick analogy. I run a construction firm, and I knock at your door and demand £10,000 to build an extension, or I'll take all your stuff and throw you in a cage. Essentially, that's what the government do when they tax you. They say they're going to supply you with services and protect you, but if you don't pay them, just like the mafia, they are the ones that come after you and use force and violence to get the money out of you. The trouble is, most people never look at these situations from these angles, and so rarely see the deception that is constantly being pulled over our eyes. It has been calculated that 47% of all your income is spent on tax. You work 5 to 6 days a week and get to keep 54% of your wages. Then you have to pay for your mortgage or rent, gas, electricity, water, food, clothes, and that's just the basics. No wonder both parents have to work and work constantly, unlike families of just 50 years ago. You're in a metaphorical cage that, just like Neo, you cannot touch, taste, or smell. A prison created by the mind of man.
This is a prison without bars. This is a prison without big walls to keep them in. It's just a prison of the mind.
Governments do not make money within themselves. The government's primary function is to trick money out of your pocket and feed it into their business, so they can carry on with wars, deception, all in plain sight.
They didn't do anything. They just went, thank you very much, and here you go.
Fundamentally, a promissory note is a promise to pay. Now, if I was going to give you a promissory note for 2 dozen eggs, that means here's an IOU, the IOU, 2 dozen eggs. Now, it could be on demand, or it could be at a set time in the future. If it was on demand, you would be within your right to say, John, look, here we go, here's a promissory note. It says on demand, I want 2 dozen eggs. So I said, all right, look, I haven't got on me. I'll pop over the shop and get you your eggs. Here we go, there we go. And this is what we did originally when promissory notes started out, was that we used them to make a promise that, because, I've got like all these pounds of gold, right? And I want them stored safely. And I want to be able to trade that gold, but without the hassle of carrying it around. So what I do, I go to the bank and they give us a promissory note. So I've got this promise to pay. So I can then take it somewhere else and say, look, I've got £2 of gold here, or silver, whatever it is. This is how it started out. Now, at no time have promissory notes been outlawed or taken away, and this is how big corporations actually trade with each other, with promissory notes. And in their memorandum or articles of association, when they set up their businesses, a lot of them will state within their documents that they will take promissory notes. Now, the problem is, of course, that the actual Bank of England and our government, working with the banks, have taken away all the value to the promissory notes, which are used as our currency. So now the promise to pay £1, well, £1 of what? It's not £1 of anything. It's just, it's now become like monopoly money. This is back to the analogy with monopoly. It's not worth anything. So basically it's just a piece of paper. So what we do, we can actually say, well, here's a promissory note for £1,000. I want to swap it for your promissory note, or put it into my bank account and credit my bank account with £1,000. Remember, these are statutes, but because these are companies, they have to apply by their statutes, you see. We don't, but they do. So it's almost like, they create enough rope and they end up hanging themselves, you see. So it's actually, the statute is the way that we actually overcome them, I believe. But, yeah.
In fact, the money in your pocket is a promissory note. Somewhere it says, I promise to pay the bearer, and there's somebody's signature on it. Your signature is the most powerful thing on this planet, yeah? Your signature is worth an unlimited amount. And this is the thing we don't realise. We have the power. You can go into a bank, okay, and come away with £100,000 as a loan, yeah? What do they take from you for that £100,000? Your signature. Your signature. Just your signature. You see the power of that signature now, yeah? So with your signature, if you write your promissory note, you've created money. And that money is your promise to pay, your promise to work, use your energy, yeah? That's all there is, your unlimited energy. And that is what the money is. And you supply it, not banks.
So, at the heart of money lending is a massive fraud. You create the money with the authority of your signature and the creation of a promissory note that the banks then securitize, making them more money. Then the bank makes you believe you have borrowed the money and requires you to pay it back plus interest.